apply or how they look to other people. Their image is oftentimes very huge in that aspect. There we go. Right there. Okay. Hardest thing I've gone through, been married to the narc 21 years, married him at 19. It's definitely a very huge and hard thing to go through. I was abused by my narcissist physically, but he would blame me. Any suggestions on how to heal? One, I would definitely say get into therapy. For you with going through some of the physical stuff, there's a good book out there called The Body Keeps the Score. That's a really good one. I know my wife has read that one. She's recommended it to a lot of people as well. Relationship with my mom, it's decent. I wouldn't say it's like anything bad or anything like that. So, but yeah. I'm starting my divorce process soon, and lately I've been missing the person he was in the beginning. Yeah, you're missing a fantasy. You know, you're missing the love bombing the person that was originally, that you thought was originally there, that never was. So the thing is, you have to go back and review, like, what's the actual story, what's the actual thing that's happened, because you're missing the fantasy. Have I heard of the book? Why does he do that? Yeah, no, I've heard of that. It's a good book. I have not had a chance to read all of it, but I do know a lot of people that recommend it as well that I trust. When a narc tries to show you what you're missing 3 years after you discard, is this typical of them? I wouldn't say always typical, but a lot of times they want to put on a show after you've left. Narcissism is through trauma and through abuse, typically early childhood, or having parents that were, emotionally unavailable, as far as like overbearing or over enabling. It helped when he told me to look at the reality, not the fantasy. Yeah. Do you ever have my wife on for question answers? I've done it like I think once or twice. She's hopped in once or twice. We did a question answer a while ago. It was like last year sometime. That's on YouTube. You can check that out. We've been talking about if she wants to come back on and do one. Lee and I talked the other day about the possibility of Lee's wife and my wife doing a dual live. I think that would be kind of crazy. What behaviors made you realize you're a narcissist? So if you look up the DSM-5, there's 9 characteristics. You have to have at least 5 of them. Pretty much check off the boxes on almost all of them. I don't have that up right now because I was uploading some stuff. Is it worth it to apologize to a narc? Apologize for what? I'm not sure what you want to apologize to them for. I need to move this around. Financially supporting our kid and still have stuff at our place. A lot of times the stuff at the place is just to kind of keep you coming back, but not hoovering. Yeah, I mean, to keep being able to be in your life, whether that's control. Can a narc marry the girl he constantly cheats on? I mean, yeah. Can extreme narcissists heal with therapy? Majority of times an extreme narcissist isn't even going to get therapy or even admit who they even are. They're not going to even admit anything about it. Do narcs change for the right person? No, they have to change for themselves. The right person is just short-lived. The dual live, yeah. I refuse to answer his text thanks to our work. That's awesome. Poetry, that's awesome. I'm really glad to hear that. Any tips on how to feel like yourself again after leaving them? I feel like I lost so much myself after we stopped talking, and then only a month later he got married and made it worse. So some of that is your perspective. He's not going to make it worse for you. It's going to feel worse. It's going to feel worse. But in reality, like, it's not going to be worse for you because you're the one that's actually getting out of that abuse, getting out of that relationship, and the next person is just starting into an abusive relationship. Is there a difference between avoidant attachment and narcissist personality? Yeah, there's a lot of differences. The narcissist, hey, good to see you. A lot of narcissist personality has a lot more to it than just attachment style, and a lot of that is a lot more the manipulation, lies. Um, I'm like blanking in the moment, so I'm like doing like three different things. But yeah, no, there is differences between it. Help me understand my past relationship so much. It's good to hear, bro. There you are. I'm either live and you don't come live, or I see you live and you don't bring me live. So I see how it is. It's just life. Someday I'll do a live. I left the narcissist. How likely will he come back? It's fairly likely. Best thing is to plan for it. Katie, how you doing today? What to do in dealing with narc people at work? A lot of times you got to set boundaries. Setting boundaries at work is really key and crucial. Check out Heather Coleman Voss. She's got some stuff on narcissists at work. Watch your videos today with 30 red flags and that you made it. What do you think the number one red flag would be for the majority of narcissists? Okay, sorry, it took me a while to get to that question. What do I think would be the number one red flag? Probably along the lines of like boundaries. When you tell them no, like their reaction when you tell them no. So like early on in a relationship, find a way to tell multiple people no. That or road rage. A lot of people responded to the road rage videos. Will narcs seek revenge on you after you press charges? Possibly. Oftentimes they don't really care about the law. What do I think of two narcissists in a relationship would look like? Probably really toxic. So I don't really think that those can last like long term, personally. How can you teach your children about narcissism? I would say teach them like the opposite. Teach them like how to handle their emotions effectively. Teach them how to work through their emotions and everything that's going on. Otherwise they grow up and they lack that emotional maturity and they just lash out. But working through like how we deal with emotions and how emotions don't control them, being a safe place so that they can actually open up. Yeah, no, absolutely. All right, Rose. Sometime we'll do it. We'll do a live sometime. My best friends have been narcissists. I keep attracting them. They think I'm their pet. Sounds like you need to set some boundaries. And if you keep running into narcissists, at that point, you need to set some boundaries so that you don't keep going or they're controlling you. But ideally, those boundaries need to be set. A narcissistic ex has so many people fooled and believing I'm the bad one. I have a 3rd-year restraining order, and he comes out with his minister friends smelling like a rose. Will he ever get revealed? I mean, it's hard to know. At that point, you got to focus on the people that do know you and continue on with your life. How do you set boundaries when it comes to a narc with co-parenting? One of them could be going through a co-parenting app. Some of the popular ones that people have told me about that they use is Talking Parents app, Our Family Wizard, or We Parent. Those are some of the 3. Like having boundaries so you're not communicating directly with them could be really key, could be really helpful. Can a narcissist feel Guilt. Yeah, they feel guilt, but it's like for an instant. It's for really quick. So like guilt and shame are one of the two things that like narcissists do not want to feel at all. Like they're terrified of it. You want to run away from it. So like imagine like you're cooking, you put your hand on a hot stove. You're gonna like jerk your hand back as quick as possible. That's the same type of feeling, reaction, mental reaction that a narcissist has in dealing with guilt and dealing with shame. It's right off as quick as possible. They don't want to be able to touch that. They don't want to be able to have that. It's hard to feel like I'm not the one. I said hi, but I didn't answer your question. Sorry. It's hard not to feel like I'm the one who looks like a fool by the new supply. Any tips for this? Not to feel like I'm the one who looks like a fool by the new supply. Like because there's a new supply, you feel like you look like the fool. So ultimately, at the end of the day, like your ex is going to do like whatever. They're going to do whatever they're going to do, and you're not going to be able to control that or like tell them one thing or another. But at the end of the day, like there's going to look like they're going to move off and run off into the sunset and have like the perfect relationship and the perfect whatever. But in reality, it's not going to be that way. Okay, she thinks you're the problem because of everything that he said. He's manipulated it, triangulated, and also turned it around so that she thinks that you're the problem. There's nothing you're going to be able to do to be able to convince her, because you'd have to convince her that he's toxic first. So already set up those barriers so that you'll look crazy whenever you come after him or whenever you say anything. What makes a narc change for themselves? That's a good question. It really is that internal idea of like wanting to be honest and wanting to work through it, getting tired of the cycle, realizing like life isn't just going to get any better by continuing that cycle. And most of the time, they won't do that. The thing is, the narcissist doesn't want to sit in that aspect of shame. They don't want to sit in that aspect of like guilt and actually admit of the things that they've actually done. I can't stop thinking that it's all my fault that the relationship didn't work out. A lot of times when people are thinking this, they don't acknowledge how much they've changed in the relationship for the other person. Like, did they have moving boundaries? Did they, moving goals? Like, did they have stuff that they were like, hey, like, you need to change this, you need to change this, you need to change this. And when you did, what actually happened? Is it common for the narc to want to know your most inner secrets? Yeah, absolutely. Then they can use them against you. What is the narcissist's biggest fear? Shame. What are some of the reasons narcs cheat in relationships? Why do they keep them around? To always have someone, to be able to have someone in their life that gives them that validation, or that they can have getting supply from, in one sense. And then there's a high of cheating. Yeah, so if you want to meet with me one time, it would be one-on-one. So you can get that through my website, rawmotivations.com. It's not fair I have to suffer in silence. He's dragging my name. I feel I can't suffer much longer. Focus on the friends and the people that know like who you are. They're racing to get married since she thinks we're already divorced. Be good to let her know that you're not divorced. That he's dragging his feet on that. Why don't they want to admit stuff? It's so freeing when you admit stuff. Yeah, but admitting stuff means that they're wrong. Admitting stuff means that they're doing something wrong. There's an accountability aspect. The love switch goes off and they discard. I wish this all red flags before I fell for him. Yeah, absolutely. Why do they constantly put the blame on the other person? So it's the aspect of when I feel guilt and when I feel shame, I don't want to experience that. I don't want to have that in my life. So I have to put it off on someone else as quick as possible. So I feel guilt, I feel shame, and I put it on you as fast as I can. I have to blame the other person. You're the one that made me do this. It's your fault. You're the reason why this happened. When that blame doesn't take, or when that blame doesn't fix the problem, then that's when I got to be able to rage or up the ante, in one sense, so that we get away from the aspect of keeping me accountable. Why do people always seem to love the narc? How is it that they fool so many? They fool so many by that image and by constantly lying. So they produce this persona that everybody sees. And a lot of times, even in the relationship, beginning of the relationship, you have like the love bombing aspect and things like that. That at the beginning of the relationship seems so good that that person is also telling everybody else, hey, this relationship's awesome. And so it like keeps them in there longer. And then as it slowly gets worse, they don't want to admit that it's been awful. And at that point, people start to not even believe them. Why can't they handle boundaries or no? They feel entitled. You owe them. Have you ever had a moment you felt like your faith helped you realize the problem? My ex always said he was a Christian, but he never acknowledged the contradiction between his words and actions. So if there's a contradiction between his words and actions, then he's not a Christian. You know him by their actions. You know him by their behavior. Just like you know a narcissist by their actions, by their behavior, not their words. So if their words say something different, then that's completely different. For me, a lot of it was acknowledging like my lies in the situation before I could even get to the place of acknowledging my relationship with God. Best thing or how to feel when being manipulated. I'm trying to get out and we have 2 kids. So some of the manipulation, unless it's going to be on like the violent side, I would say like try the gray rocking. That way he's looking for a reaction. If he's not getting a reaction, then a lot of times that manipulation might slow down. Their image is very important to them. That's what narcissism is all about. Control of the image. Find somebody a letter saying, sorry, I did the things that damaged you. Is he becoming self-aware? Probably not. I would say like keep a close eye and see, but like sorry I did the things that damaged you. Like that's a weak ass apology, and it's not even an apology. It's just saying sorry, like sorry, and then like if there's no change behavior, it's just manipulation. It hasn't been awful ever. I'm not sure what you're saying. Actually, sometimes it was awful. If you start to look at the actual things of the relationship, a lot of times you'll see that it's pretty bad. 7 years and finally becoming so aware for the sake of my kids. I was told no contact from my kids was revenge. Diva charge was to win back love. You and Lee have helped my life so much. That's awesome. That's really good to hear. I've been reading the book Psychopath Free. Hey, good job. Psychopath Free. There you go. Confused, is the author describing a narcissist or psychopath something different? So a lot of that in the book I would say is very like interchangeable. So a lot of the stuff that I've even used for content is going off of the book. It's very interchangeable. It's very relatable. Yes, please be careful. Gray walking makes it worse. Okay, it can make it worse. So what I normally say is gray walking works 50% of the time. And you have to really know your narcissist before you start gray rocking, because some of them it'll lower it, some of them they'll move on, but some of them it'll just get worse. How did your wife get over the hurt? So she's been in therapy longer than I have for a good while. A couple books that were influential in like her healing. The Body Keeps the Score, and then Forgiving What You Can't Forget. Those are like the 2 books that she normally encourages people to check out. But those have to do with healing from trauma and also like healing from like affairs. So gray rocking is the idea that you don't give them a response or you don't give them a reaction, because the majority of the time, like they're looking for a reaction. So like think of it like, maybe with like kids and stuff like that, the whole like, I'm not touching you. I'm not touching you. If the person sits there for long enough and ignores the person that's not touching them, eventually they'll go away. That's kind of like the idea or the concept of gray rocking. But as soon as they're like, stop doing that, like they're going to keep doing it because they're getting the reaction that they want out of it. They can't handle no, it's because we're violated too often, so it seems unfair at times. Yeah, he says I'm the one for him, and he can be a really good man with me, but I feel like a prisoner. If you feel like you're a prisoner, he's probably not being a really good man. Yeah, no, if you want to talk one-on-one sometime, you can just go onto my website, rawmotivations.com. You can click the link in any of the bios. If you want to join a community that's trying to work on just educating people, helping them track their growth, track their truth, track their no content, we also have the NARC app, just came out in February. So there's over like 2,500 people that have already downloaded it. It's NARC, N-A-R-C. You can download it from my bio or go onto Apple or Google Play. We've got some exclusive lives, exclusive like group events coming up there as well. When I took him back before last, he acted like nothing happened, and that was the only way it would work. So someone was talking to me about this the other day. When a really good salesman can sell stuff going into an appointment or going into a sales pitch with already having in their mind that you're going to buy it. So like, let's say if you're on the car lot, it's like, okay, like, which one do you want to go home with today? Like, they're already assuming that you're going to buy it. A narcissist a lot of times can be a good salesman after a giant argument, after a, hey, we're broken up and I don't ever want to see you again. The next day they show up like nothing ever changed, because if they do that, there might be that cognitive dissonance of like, okay, well, maybe he's fixed. Maybe we're back together. It might be something like that, but they just go off the assumption that they're still going to have you. Is having a child will give them a hold of you. Yeah, a lot of times it will give them a hold. A lot of times they try to get a kid just to be able to have that hold. No, absolutely. Thanks so much. It's so hard getting over the fact that that person they are in the beginning isn't really them. Yeah, no, absolutely. And part of that is really confusing because that's what you latched onto. That's what you knew was real because that's what they told you it was real. But you have to go back and like deal with the facts. If you don't go back with the facts, a lot of times it'll change your perception, your reality of it, and you end up going back. Yeah, cognitive dissonance is really confusing. It's really hard. So a lot of times when people develop a trauma bond, how I normally explain it is it's normally built on either cognitive dissonance, hope, or potential. Thinking that there's hope there, thinking that there's potential for the other person, and that cognitive dissonance of those highs and lows, the ups and downs. Like cognitive dissonance, how I normally explain it is like at its base level is I look at you and I slap you in the face and I say I love you. Then I slap you in the face and I say I love you. Then I slap you in the face and I say, I love you. Over a period of time, you start to understand that that abuse that I'm giving you is either one, all that you deserve and all that love's cracked up to be. Like that's all that you're going to get. Like that's the best you're going to get because that cognitive dissonance is doing something that doesn't make sense, doing something that's hurtful, but then telling you the exact opposite. It messes with your mind, it messes with your brain. I work at the same place as my ex and didn't realize how bad it was until I was out of the relationship. Yeah. Until I left and started healing. Yeah. Why do we reminisce on the good times when you know that it was a lie? Oftentimes it's because you're telling yourself a different story. You're telling yourself a whole different story that prompts you to go down that road. When I work with people, a lot of times it's dealing with them to help them work through their emotions, their thoughts, to be able to get underneath and be able to rewire the story that's happening in their brain, because the majority of the time it's false and it takes them down the wrong path. Gray rocking is still interacting, in my opinion. Yeah, no, I get that. I think gray rocking is a temporary option for people that are stuck or are working on their exit strategy. Do narcs know that they're doing that to us? A lot of times they know that they are causing pain. But it comes down to it's about them. It's not about other people. Are narcs ever just ignorant, or do they always know deep down that they're in the wrong? A lot of times what's deep down is the aspect of shame and guilt. but also the opposite side of that, of not being willing to acknowledge it or come clean about who they actually are, what's going on, will keep them from actually admitting that. So I've got like it up on my computer because there's a couple people I have to respond to if they contact me. Psychopath Free, it's an amazing book. If there's any questions, you're with one. Yeah, no, it's a really good book. So I've got in the works. Well, I've got in the plans, I should say, not the works, because I haven't had a chance to get to it. But actually, a thing that I'm going to be adding to the Narc app that's going to have like a quiz in one sense to be able to go through, that you would be able to fill out, being like, hey, do they act like this? Do they exhibit these traits? Like kind of a way for you to kind of let's not say self-diagnose so nobody crucifies me, but like so you can do a quiz to assess their behaviors and actions to give you an idea if they're narcissistic. And I'll say it that way. Psychopath Free was the name of the book. Gina said, I used to block out the bad times and fights, got to a point where I had to journal it so I'd remember it. This was with my first narcissistic narc ex, and then my recent one didn't allow me to even use my phone. It was so toxic. I didn't know anything about narcissists. Yeah. No, I mean, you have to journal sometimes just to keep yourself sane. Make sure you actually know what's going on. I started sticking up for myself and my kids because gray rocking didn't go well. Is that an okay idea? Yeah. Do whatever you have to keep yourself and your kids safe. Ultimately, that might mean you need to leave. I have a question. He left me for a third time for someone else. There's been no contact for 3 weeks. Will he come back? And that is a possibility. I would say always plan on that. Go no contact, make sure that they can't come back. So no contact means you block them on everything. You ghost. You literally, like, you go into witness protection. Put it that way. Like, you want to make sure that there's no way for them to come back. What if we all just bail the first time they treat us badly? They have no idea what to do. Yeah. Hey, that's the goal with more people, like, learning. Gotcha. Yeah, okay. Yeah, you left 4 years ago. Then, yeah, absolutely. Like, you have to do whatever you can to be able to protect your kids. And then be there for emotionally, help them to grow so they don't turn out that way. Are they daring enough to cheat while on the phone with you? Yeah, 100%. Why do narcissists threaten to end the relationship after you told them how damaging it is, that they're shocked when you actually agree with them and leave the relationship after hearing this too much? That was like a whole line. A lot of times they'll threaten the relationship just to have control over you. The reaction, if you shame reputation, their new supply in their face. Sorry, I'm not understanding some of these questions. Why don't they just leave instead of cheat? It's not as exciting. There's a high of cheating. That way they can have their cake and eat it too. They can have a constant supply and then find other people to tide them over, I guess you could say. Why is he so angry when he broke up with me? It's that it's a weird concept, so it's a little hard to be able to communicate it. But the idea of him being so angry with you after he broke up with you goes back to the idea of being abandoned and rejected. And I know that sounds really stupid because he's the one that did it. But let's say you have a time when you leave the narcissist for a period of time. Maybe it's a work trip, maybe it's to hang out with different people, whatever it might be, where you leave for a period of time. And leading up to that time when you're getting ready to leave, there's, extra things that happen. There's reactions, there's tenseness. And then maybe while you're on the trip or away for that night, he's blowing up your phone. There's all this different type of stuff. It's going down to the primal thing of abandonment and feeling abandoned. I'm not saying it in like terms of like, borderline personality. I'm just saying like there's a primal aspect underneath that. That's not just my words. That's coming from like Dr. Ramani. And then like the idea of like rejection coming on it. I have some of that in one of my videos coming out next week, actually, about when you abandon the narcissist. So it's a power trip if they cheat and get away with it? 100%. 100%. Why do I still check his social media all the time? I see he sends comments with my name to get a reaction even after a year of no contact. He's still doing that to get a reaction, and you're giving a reaction by still being on social media and watching for it. So you need to block and go no contact, because otherwise he'll start sharing and doing all different kinds of stuff just to get a reaction to get you to come back. When you said things about their new supply, like saying bad things about the new supply, using a reputation tactic. I don't know what that links back to. If someone doesn't want to be with them, does that make them chase them even more? It can, because that could be like the high of the game. How can I figure out if he truly changed or if I'm just in another cycle? If you take the relationship off the table, are they going to continue to work on themselves? Are they in therapy? Are they actually changing how they're interacting? Are they being honest? Are they being vulnerable? He said he wants to see if I change but still talk to others. He wants to see if you change but he still talks to others. If he's still talking to others, leave, block, get out of there. He doesn't pursue me or show interest that I left. Why? He's probably busy with another supply. The fact of the narcissist like doesn't hoover doesn't mean your value is any less. A lot of times people think like, oh, my narcissist didn't hoover me, like I must not have meant that much to him. No, the thing you need to remember is you didn't mean anything to them at all. Like you didn't mean anything to start off with. Whether you think you're grade A supply or grade B supply, like who freaking cares? At the end of the day, like the fact of them not hoovering you says nothing about your worth. Top 3 co-parenting apps. These are the top 3 that I know about. There might be others out there. Talking Parents app, Our Family Wizard, and then We Parent. Those are the ones that I know. Texting Lee to see if you wanted to come on for a little bit. App Close is another one. Sweet. Thank you for my pen. App Close. Didn't know about that one. Why is it impossible to get your point across to the narcissist? Do they really not get it? No, they get it. But if you're trying to convince them of them being wrong, then like, no, that's not going to happen. Again, remember, being wrong means that they did that. They have that shame. They have that guilt. Robin asks, why do they prefer porn to real physical contact at times? I don't think that's just towards narcissists, but a lot of times different addictions like that come to the fact of they're just trying to sedate how they actually feel, and they're trying to get a high in the moment. I did so much, it was never enough. Because if the narcissist is never going to be enough. They don't have standards. They don't have morals. They're just going off of what they want. That shirt brings out my eyes. Thank you so much. It's one of my favorite ones. From my experience, they don't hoover when they know they can no longer manipulate you and they found new supply. Yeah, a lot of times it's very true. How do you get them to use the apps? Mine won't, even when legally ordered to. If they're not going to when legally ordered to, then you don't have to communicate with them. Like, free and clear. I know that sounds like I'm minimizing, and I'm not trying to, but like, here's what you have to use. If you're not going to use that, then the consequences are you don't have any communication with me. Like, tough luck. I keep going back. There's nothing right. I don't know how to get free. So with going back, you have to learn to be able to change your mindset, because you're holding on to either hope, potential, or the cognitive dissonance that's keeping you in a trauma bond, keeping you going back. That's why I work with people on a day-to-day basis, try to help them to not go back, but then to change their mindset so they set boundaries and they stop going back. The idea of going back to a narcissist, once you've been through it and then you keep going back, that's not on them. That's on your growth. That's on your healing, to be able to set those boundaries so you don't go that way. Letting go of the fantasy is changing the story that you're believing. And that's a story that's kind of buried, kind of hidden underneath. Now, walk people through like that process of dealing with their emotions and their feelings and trying to figure out what's the story that's lying underneath and how do we actually get to the truth. Do you think this is a good plan to not acknowledge his birthday? If you're separated and no contact, you shouldn't acknowledge anything. That person no longer exists. Mine told me he wanted to make it work, and then one day and the next, it was all my fault. Yeah, absolutely. When you and Lee were talking to each other, is there ever a manipulative tug of war? I think we're pretty respectful to both each other. I honestly, like, I feel like, I mean, we're friends in one sense because we talk. We talk about, we talk about either our platforms, we talk about different things we're going through. We talk about even like personal stuff, like what he's dealing with, what I'm dealing with sometimes. But I think there's also like an aspect of like respect, and then we both want each other to be able to succeed and continue to grow. He cries with no tears. Yeah. He won't leave me alone. He wants to marry me and we'll go to counseling. I want to believe him. How can he cry with no tears? Yeah. Yeah, I'll be really careful. If he's really persistent, that might be he's just trying to catch you. It's like the game. My narc ex keeps trying to involve his new supply in our co-parenting. How do I deal? It depends, unless you can get it through like legally wise. Otherwise, I know in some instances, like there's nothing you can do when it's on that side. As far as like the communication, like, you can't control who's like texting in one sense. After I moved out, I couldn't bring myself to stop asking him closure questions for clarity, even though I ended it. His answers kept changing. My self-worth went even lower. You're not going to be able to get closure from a narcissist, because that would be them having to be honest and how to be vulnerable. Breaking the trauma bond is going back and changing that fantasy, changing that story. Yeah, no, if you want to talk sometime, you can go to my website, rawmotivations.com. You can click one-on-ones. You can click any of the links in my bios, click one-on-ones, and grab a time for us to be able to chat and be able to help with that. Do narcissists become more abusive the more weak and vulnerable you appear? They seem to kick you while you're down. Yeah, no, absolutely. It's more of like that. They're still able to control you, so they'll keep doing it. After months, my narc came back to Hoover again. I found that he was now engaged after he said he would never marry again. And when I called him out, he never responded. So crazy. Yeah. And I'm glad you called him out, and then keep those boundaries. What does it mean when they tell you that you deserve better? That when you start to pull away, they grip you all over again. So the idea of like, hey, you deserve better. Like, you don't deserve to like be with me or anything like that. Like, that's the whole idea of like pushing, so like, you don't deserve me. I'm such an awful person, blah, blah, blah. And, and with that kind of aspect, you normally reach out and be like, no, like, I want to be able to help. I want to be able to fix you. Like, I want all this type of stuff. A lot of times it's like a manipulation tool. No contact is crucial for healing, but I wouldn't say emphatically that no contact breaks the trauma bond, because I know plenty of people that are no contact that are still locked in the trauma bond, the fantasy, or thinking of going back to that person or wanting to go back with that person or not able to move on. So I say no contact is a step in that direction, but I wouldn't say that finalizes it. You can hear like fireworks. It's weird. Is it worth trying to talk, or do we just bail once we see their truth? A lot of times with the narcissist, they're not going to admit who they are. They're not going to change. So at that point, you have to assess their behaviors and their actions. Sometimes you'll see a slight change for a period of time, but it normally doesn't last. Tried going on a date and actually rekindle the trauma bond and made me love him more. Yes. Once you're away from a narcissist, don't go back. Holding back from responding to my narcissist this very moment. Don't do it. Unless it is fireworks. There's fireworks going on someplace. Unless you're like having to deal with it in like a co-parenting style, then don't. Like, you need to block, go no contact. Otherwise, like, when you don't go no contact, okay? When you don't go no contact and you're just like, I'm just gonna not respond, I'm just gonna not interact with them. When you don't go no contact, what that is you take a wound and you put a band-aid over it. And every couple of days you're like, is it healed? Is it healed? Is it healed? And every time you're like ripping off the stuff that's trying to heal. Yeah, I'm saying like not responding is good, but you also need to go no contact unless you have kids. And even then, we got these parenting apps. Are many narcs codependent and want you to beg them to stay? I don't have the best answer on this. When I was talking to Carrie McAvoy, she's another psychologist that's on this platform. She was saying how like codependent and narcs like don't go together. It seems like it, but codependent is like a I want to say attachment style, but I'm pretty sure I'm explaining that wrong, so don't quote me. But she was saying how they like don't go together. It's not that they're codependent. It might be that they don't want to feel like abandoned, they don't want to be rejected, or they don't want to look like the bad guy where they want you to leave, but in reality they're hoping that you leave, so then they go tell other people, I tried to get them to stay, but they didn't listen to me. Sorry, I'm just trying to catch up. DBT, yeah, I've done some DBT. My therapist is really like a plethora of like a bunch of different stuff. Like, you name it, she's kind of like in it in one sense. But there's a lot of different stuff that we've gone through. DBT, I don't have enough on like the knowledge of like the workings of DBT. I know some. She's recommended some stuff. I just haven't like purchased the books to be able to like help as well, when I'm working with people. But some of the stuff I do already with people is along the lines of like cognitive therapy, which is similar in one sense to DBT, but it's just like different. 21 years of pain and suffering. It's been 6 months no contact, even his kids no contact. Yeah. Do they know they're employing the things you talk about, turning blame, compartmentalizing? Not necessarily. I think sometimes they do. I know some people that have said like their narc talked about compartmentalizing. They didn't use that word, but they expressed that. Excuse me. My ex don't have a history of going back to his ex supply. They just move on very quickly. Is that his style? Could be. You knew how to get me back. I'm staying strong. Please stay strong. I feel like I'm still in a trauma bond, but moving 2,000 miles away helps. Yeah, absolutely. Somehow he started to talk about how he treats other females and made it seem like he wouldn't do that to me, but I had information on him and knew that he was actually doing it to me, so I went no contact. No, absolutely. That's awesome. It's interesting how they want to hide you from the world to abuse you, but they portray this good image to the rest of the world. You shouldn't be seeking relationships with them. Don't make friends. Yeah. Why do they try to get friends against us? So a lot of times it's isolation, but really the friends against you is more like friends siding with them. That's like the aspect in their mind. And so like they want to have other people believe the image that they're putting out there. Yeah, but I just saw a video of him and someone having fun, 3 months, blocked, crying. I know I shouldn't look. You shouldn't look, because the only people that have to convince other people that are happy are the ones that are truly not happy. Like it's all a game. It's all a show. That's all it is. I can minimize these so I can see. What'd you ask? If I just go no contact without a warning, how long until the narc senses it? Probably like, depending on your level of communication, probably like within an hour. I don't know how much y'all talk already, but yeah. Let's see, that. I don't know what I'm missing, but there's like a whole like fireworks show going outside. I think it's like a festival on the other side of town, like in the park out behind us. He called his compartmentalization parked in the back of his head. That's one way to do it. I blocked 4 times. He made other Facebooks. And when I blocked, he showed up at my place. Narc, psycho, yes, possibly. Like, protect yourself however you need to. Why does he say he's doing better without me? Because he's trying to convince you that he is, and he's also messing with you. And if he's telling you that he's doing better without you, then you're not blocking. You need to block to be able to heal. When they leave, either you push them out, either they discard you, anything like that. The next thing that happens is the display, is the production of trying to put out there to the world that they're so much happier with the next person than they were with you. He was trying to make you jealous. Okay, you have blocked. You worked with him. You work with him. Yeah, you have to see how well that works out. A lot of times it doesn't work out to stay anywhere near them in contact. It's hard to admit our relationship was a facade. Yeah. When you start thinking of that, when it actually comes down to like admitting that the relationship with a facade was kind of like going through your head, like underneath the surface of like asking yourself why it's hard to admit. Catherine, hello. If you guys are on Instagram, Catherine just popped up. Catherine Kleiss, if you haven't had a chance, go follow her. She's got some awesome content about narcissism. She was with a narcissist, and she also has a father that's a narcissist as well. So feel free to check out her information. She's on TikTok under Stan Coaching. I try to ignore, but all he does is tell me how shit I am and how he will find someone better. Yeah, you like even with working together, you need to get to a place where you're going like no contact, or it's probably not a good idea to still be at the same job with them. Do you believe trauma bond is like the Stockholm syndrome? Yes, I do. It'd be funny if it weren't sad that they can find an excuse for any behavior and justify it. Yeah, they're always the victim, for sure. Accepting the reality is super hard. Accepting it was all the game. What's underlying that, though? Like, as you think, like, accepting the reality and the reality being really hard, what's underlying that aspect? Like, is it hard because it feels bad, because it's sad, because it's shameful? Like, what's underneath that? What's underneath that it's hard to admit it was all false? Like, that's what I'm asking. Before I went no contact, he told me that she makes him happy and would change, and he would change for her. Yeah, it's a lie. Just triangulation right there. So it's hard. Okay, thanks. It's hard because I loved him and wasted over half of my life. So it's hard because there's an aspect of time wasted. So it's time that you're not going to get back. Okay, there's a reality that he really didn't love you. Yeah. So investing all that time. So it kind of feels like you're like shortchanged. What are you doing? The dog. Kind of feels like you're shortchanged, like you're gypped. Like what you're depositing, you know, someone took that and just spent it everywhere. A lot of times when people feel that, so like bear with me, a lot of times when people feel that, like they feel like they just got used and abused, there's a big aspect of shame. Scammed. Yeah, that's a good one. There's a big aspect of shame. There's a big aspect of like feeling like used and abused. And the thing is, you have to be able to look at it and understand like, hey, like this person made those decisions, but those decisions don't determine my worth. They don't determine like who you are, but a lot of times we'll attach our worth to the things that have happened to us. Like I just got a failing grade on my midterm. Oh, I'm such an idiot. That's that self-talk there. Like I stayed with a narcissist for so long. Oh, I can't believe it. I'm such an idiot. Like it's the words that you're speaking to yourself. It's that self-talk that's also going back into everything that you're thinking, everything that you're doing that's going to drive you into a further place of shame and discouragement. A lot of times people look back on the relationship and they say, I can't believe how long I stayed. I'm so stupid for how long I stayed. The thing you have to do is you have to take a step back and you have to pause, because you can't judge yourself for stuff that happened without that knowledge. So like, think of it this way. Like, are you mad at yourself for not understanding how to do algebra at age 2? Like, I can't believe I was so stupid for not being able to do algebra at age 2. Like, I can't believe how dumb could I have been not to know how to do algebra at page 2. Okay, well, when you're with the narcissist, you didn't know about narcissism. Like, there's very few people that come out of narcissistic abusive relationships for the first time. They're like, I knew exactly what was happening and I just enjoyed the entire time. Like, they don't do that. They don't understand what's going on. So the thing is, you have to really understand, you have to acknowledge, like, hey, in this moment now, as I look at the past and I understand this is what happened in the past, I can't judge myself on the past based on the knowledge I have now. Take back your power, understand who you are, where you are, and work on your growth and change. But ultimately, the shame, the blame, like everything that they've put on you is yours to accept. You don't have to accept it, because it's not your responsibility to accept their decisions, to accept their cheating, to accept their lies. I heard the other day, like, the thought of, like, if someone walks up to you and they cuss you out in a different language and you have no clue about that language, you have no clue what they're saying, it doesn't feel bad because you don't know what they're actually saying. The person that gives weight to the words is you, is the person receiving the words. So when the narcissist is throwing a ton of stuff out, the weight that you're giving those words ultimately dictates how you're going to be able to receive those, how those are going to hurt, how those are going to fight. So work on taking back your power, understanding the person that is attacking you is not following through with anything else in their life. They're attacking you saying, like, hey, you're not changing, you're not growing, you're not working on yourself. But ultimately, are they? No. That was my soapbox. I was preaching for a little bit. Okay. I got fired up for a minute. So when someone wants to stay with a narcissist, what I'd say is, if you're trying to evaluate, if you should stay with a narcissist, are they showing honest vulnerability? Are they showing consistent change? Or are they showing active therapy? Like, throw that in there as well. They're not trying to change. They don't care. Judge their actions. How was he with his ex for 6 years? She probably kept letting him stay. Kept letting him come back. Last year, I won a protective order against him. The other day, I won a protective order against his sister. Does he feel anything about this? Maybe slight betrayal if he's close to his sister. Otherwise, probably not. I feel for my narc so much. He had almost nothing when I met him. A lot of times they have nothing, and that's why they get with you, so they can take everything. I have not listened to HT Tutor. Maybe like slightly. Like, we're only like 5 minutes, but I have not really listened to him. It's hard to judge actions when the cycles are years long. Yeah. No, I mean, part of that you have to judge, like, what's the day-to-day look like? Like, what's the communication look like? How are they demonstrating love? How are they demonstrating care? How are they demonstrating, like, actively trying to change? Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, no, if you want to meet, like, one-on-one, to answer your question, if you want to meet, like, one-on-one, we can actually do that. Just go onto rawmotivations.com. I've got some opportunities there for you to be able to just pick a time or be able to sit down and talk. Can't talk tonight. How can I stop feeling pity for the narcissist? You have to change. You have to acknowledge who they actually are. I mean, really, when it comes down to it, is you're having pity for someone who's abusing you, and you're not viewing them as the abuser they actually are. What goes through the narcissist's head when they get caught in the act with a new supply? Oftentimes distract, devalue, discard, like the same thing that happens when you call them out with anything. They want to get away from it. If you move on, will they come back? Even if you reported them and a lot of people heard about it. Possibility is that they will. You might have a higher probability if everybody knows about it, but no guarantee. My ex-narc made new friends, and whatever hobbies they had, he took interest, never told me about it. A lot of times they'll try to adapt to the people around them. Have you watched the show Made on Netflix? No, I have not. I think now I have this look of finding red flags in all people now. Yeah, I mean, everybody's gonna have some red flags. The thing is, like when you're seeing like a pattern, that should really make you concerned. Must be the finale. The fireworks are going off. I think that was the last one. He would spend time with me, but I couldn't really bring anything up. Had to be happy. So yeah, there's a lack of emotional support. Not willing to be there for you. Is it dangerous to have someone with narcissism not under the care of a health professional in political power or leadership role? I think you look at the majority of. So let me phrase it this way. My therapist said every president in history has been a narcissist to some degree, because you have to be narcissistic to think you can run the whole country. I'll leave it at that. What if someone is homeless, never changed his life, his addiction, never got physical with me during the 8 years, but has the ego and makes everyone feel guilty, trying to know if all my ex were narcs? I mean, they could be. There's different levels, different spectrums of them on there. Why pop back up randomly after discard? Hoover, control. He makes so much up, and I'm finding it impossible to break the trauma bond. So part of it is you need to get out. If you're not out, then you need to go no contact. Then you need to get with someone, whether it's a therapist, whether it's a coach, to be able to work on breaking the trauma bond, and that's changing the story that you're believing, changing the hope, changing the potential that you're going back to. When they accuse you of cheating because they're cheating, projection, is it because they're guilty? Yes. It's because they're guilty. They don't want to feel the guilt, so they project it back on you, so they don't have to have it. They shove it off. But it's like quick. It's not like they're like sitting in their guilt. I constantly want to expose who he really is to his family and the world. Just sit back and letting karma do his thing isn't enough. I'm angry he does this, and I'm obligated to keep his secrets. You're not obligated to do anything for the narcissist. So one, take that away, because he doesn't have that power and control over you. The second thing is, being angry is great because it's part of the healing process. You have to go through that angriness to be able to get past that. The other aspect is trying to expose him to his family. They might already know, so you got to be careful about that. The world might already be blinded by the image that he's put, or the stories he's already told other people about you. So when you try to be able to come out and say something, it's just going to blow up in your face. Honestly, the majority of people that try to out their narc, it just blows up in their face. Fireworks are not done. They're still going. I don't know if you can hear them. They're like loud. If I was only on like one live, I'd like take the phone to see them. I don't know if y'all can hear that, but it's like loud. It's very loud. The trauma bond is so painful. Miss him and know it's wrong to miss him after he hurt me so much. Yeah, so keep working on changing that story. You might have to go through that process of using that tool to go through and change that story. Because the fact that you miss him might be that you're not acknowledging what actually happened in the relationship. I'm in a long-distance relationship with someone. I'm beginning to think she's a covert narc. Yeah. Narcissists love long-distance relationships. They're great. They're a way for you to get emotional supply through the phone and then go out and get physical supply from someone else. How do I say no when we have children and he plays the victim and tells me I pushed him to be that way? Well, first off, know that you didn't push him to be that way. He makes his own choices, and he can make his own choices to get out of that shit. If he's unwilling to do that, then that's just another way to show you that, hey, he doesn't actually care and he's not willing to change. Part of it's acknowledging the truth. You know that's not true. He broke up with me anytime we argued. Yeah, a lot of times that rejection, that abandonment of like, I'm just going to leave before the other person notices who I actually am. Absolutely. My ex is now using kids' relationship to new supply to get reactions now that regular tactics failed. Yeah, a lot of times they're going to use anything and everything they can to get reactions. So not reacting is like a huge way to be able to help slow some of that process down. Why did you tell me to move on but go angry when I did? Because he didn't think you probably would. A lot of times narcissists don't think that you're actually going to leave. Are they attached to us? No, they're addicted to the control of their image, and a lot of times that means they're controlling you. Narcissists are not attached to you. Hear that loud and clear. It's one of the reasons why they cheat so easily. What can I do? Is there a test I can put her through? Maybe setting boundaries, telling them no. No, it's a little bit harder to do long distance. I'd have to think on that one. My ex blocked me months ago because he didn't like what I said. Why so many months? Blocked me months ago because he didn't like. Why is he still blocked you for so many months? You didn't like what he said, so he blocked you, and now it's been months? I'm confused. Sorry. How do I let go for good? You have to work on changing that story. So this is why I work with people like every single day on like one-on-ones, is working on breaking free of that trauma bond. And that comes down to changing the thought, changing the story that's ultimately like pulling you back. A lot of times I talk about like rewiring your mind, because when it comes down to it, people normally have a story that they're clinging on to, of like, maybe they'll get better. Like maybe it'll work if I love them more. Like maybe it was me. Maybe I'm the narcissist. Maybe I should go back and do X, Y, and Z. There's normally like a thought. If you've set boundaries and each time she tried to flip it on you, that's her trying to break your boundaries, trying to test it. So I'd set those boundaries, have clear consequences, and if she breaks them, like, okay, you don't like them, I'm sorry, these are my boundaries. Like if you don't like that, then sorry. You guys have been asking some about like co-parenting with a narcissist. You guys had a lot of questions. There is the couple of the co-parenting apps that some people recommended. Talking Parents app, our Family Wizard, We Parent, and another person said App Close. There's also, if you go to the link in my bio, you can be able to see there's a co-parenting webinar coming up here on June 2nd, I believe it is. If you've seen any of the other webinars that Stronger Than Before has put on, she always does a really awesome job. They've got some really good people in there, some with like legal counsel, some with parenting counsel, a lot of different things like that. So it's going to be a really fantastic webinar. I'd highly advise you with anyone with kids to check that out. So it's June 2nd. I think it's normally like an hour and a half or so. But you can grab tickets underneath my profile. She's got like stuff linked for me. My ex said I was a good person and still treated me like trash. What was wrong? What was wrong with him? That's the idea of cognitive dissonance. Oh, you're such a good person, but I'm going to treat you opposite. So it confuses you. So then you're going to still try to be good. You're still going to try to come back. Next time she tests it, I'll just walk away. Yeah. Ken, thanks so much. Appreciate it. I need space. He just follows me around the house and screams at me. No space. Can't escape. Yeah, I need to get out of that environment. That's abuse. Is there hope for someone who is a narc? What level of hope? If they're willing to be honest and change, there's hope. If they're not willing to be honest and change and be vulnerable, then there is no hope. Once you know, you go. Still giving financial support, is that manipulation or would want to keep you? Like the narcissist is giving you financial support. If they're giving you financial support and you're not having to worry about the contact, like take it as a win. Use them for any money that you can get, because whenever they stop giving money, they'll stop giving money. A lot of times when you're in like a co-parenting situation or you're supposed to be getting child support, you won't get it because the narcissist won't pay. So I'm trying to catch up. 4 years of text messages, years of cycle. Need this as evidence to show in case of a smear campaign. Never trust a narc, trauma bonded. Yeah, you need to work on changing that story and get out. I'm assuming you are out, but My ex used to tell me I had a beautiful heart and then would turn around and say I was a disgusting person. Yep. Gosh. My dog runs and hides under the bed. That's how loud his rages are, and his reactions are completely out of proportion. Do you believe that biologically vulnerable people, predisposition, parenting styles that are overprotective or neglectful may have an influence on the onset of narcissism? Yes. You kind of lost me on the biologically vulnerable people. Sorry. Where are we at? I want my ex to pay with karma and remember how good I was to him. He's so ungrateful. He's not going to remember how good you were to him. That doesn't matter. What matters now, you can actually acknowledge where you are and you can get growth, healing, and change. My father was a narc. I've been diagnosed with BPD because of that abuse. We're co-parenting. Why is he only nice to me when I'm upset with him? He's usually hot and cold. That's kind of like a tough one. With him being like upset, like with him being only nice whenever you're upset, it might be a level of even like reactive abuse. So if you got upset, now he like calms down in one sense because he like made you react. My ex too found pictures of me sleeping. I found out he threatened another woman with sharing her pics. Yeah, a lot of times they will try to blackmail. If I go no contact and blocked, what can I do to make it easier? I move in 4 months. So like you're together in the same house right now. He moved out of state but contacted me. Why would he bother after moving? Be able to keep the door open, keep you on the hook. Why does he tell me to call and then act like I'm a bother? That's that push-pull, the cognitive dissonance. Wants to keep you like guessing, keep that hope, keep that potential. Just left my marriage after 10 years because it was so toxic. He would push my buttons and poke, poke, poke until I blew up and reacted, and then he recorded me. Yeah, that reactive abuse. I definitely think you see like that reactive abuse and some of the stuff that we've seen come out with trial and everything with Amber Heard and Johnny Depp. There's the idea of some of those videos and reactive abuse that I think you can see there as well. On the hook for your reaction, on the hook for your emotions, on the hook that you're going to respond, like on the hook for like anything, like you lashing out at the narcissist is supply. Like you like getting back with the narcissist is supply. Like you loving the narcissist is supply. You communicating the narcissist is supply. Like that's why it's so key to cut off the communication. My ex assaulted the kids, won't pay support, and is fighting for the kids. Yeah, hopefully you can use all that in court. Animals can know negativity, anything, anywhere. Get a cat and a dog. Yeah, absolutely. A lot of times your kids also know ahead of time. I don't know how many times that like parents have said like my kids are trying to tell me like this person wasn't good, but I just ignored them. You know, they're not old enough to know. A lot of times they can sense it before you can. It's hard to throw away the greeting cards he gave me, but I know I need to. You don't just need to throw them away, you need to burn them. Like burn those greeting cards. Remember, hey, these are the greeting cards of a person who lied and manipulated you and abused you. Invite some friends over. Have a little burn party. Sorry, I'm trying to keep up with all of them. He's made the whole family seem like I'm the crazy one, an abusive one. multiple. He was really the verbal, emotional abuser. No one believed me. That's a big thing right now is with smear campaigns, try to make sure you're not reacting. The people that are closest and take time to actually know and understand you or be your friends. Otherwise, there's not much you can do. Scheduling a burn party. There you go. Yep. Okay, Deb, what I want you to do, all right, here you go. What I want you to do is I want you to take all the greeting cards that you have from them, okay? Take all the greeting cards, take them, spread them out on your table, okay? Flip them all upside down so you don't see like any words or anything like that. Flip them all upside down, and on every single one, I want you to write one truth of how he abused, how he manipulated, how he lied, how he gaslit, anything like that. Write one truth. Get a big magic marker. Write one truth on the back of each one of those greeting cards. Spread them out on the kitchen table. Write one truth on the back that you know is true about the abuse that he did in the relationship. Have everybody over. Take all those out and burn them at one time, understanding, hey, the real stuff that you thought was real on the one side is fake. The reality is what you're looking at, and you take that and you toss it in the fire one piece at a time, understanding, hey, this is the truth that I'm going to acknowledge and I'm going to live with now so that I can actually get healing and change. There you go. That one was free. That's funny. Guarantee you that'll help process that, because the biggest part is getting to the truth. You don't have enough greeting cards. Hey, no, that's totally fine. Hey, write them on other cards. It'd be a good exercise for you to be able to acknowledge the truth of the situation, because a lot of times people want to be able to minimize the truth of the situation. But yeah, anything you can to be able to help with that. He already did the smear campaign has failed. Now he's hurting our sons. That be there for your kids as best you can. Like, be that emotional support, that safety that they can have with you, because they're not going to get it from him. That's the hardest part is me not reacting, because I'm very emotional. How can I not reacting? I mentioned just a little bit ago about not receiving what they're giving. They're communicating words that you're putting meaning to. Just like if someone cussed you out in a different language, you wouldn't know what they were actually saying. You wouldn't take offense to it. So realizing where they're coming from is a state where they're not caring, they're not willing to change, they're not growing. And the words that they're saying should fall short because they're not based on anything true. Take back your power in that aspect of how you accept that. Why is he talking about me to coworkers after breakup? Probably get them on his side. I said no, felt bad. Later asked if we could be friends. He just said no. That's good. You shouldn't be friends, because there is no friends with a narcissist after you've been in that type of an abusive relationship. Frustrating part is where we have a large shared community and she's enrolled other women I've dated into her narrative that I'm the narc by mischaracterizing my reactive behavior to years of covert abuse. Yeah, no, the smear campaign can definitely be really hard, that's for sure. What is the longest you gave someone the silent treatment, and what goes through your mind when you're doing it? What made you finally reach out again? So the silent treatment wasn't my tactic of choice. So a lot of times I did not do the silent treatment. I know Lee did more of the silent treatment on a regular basis in his relationship. But typically the thought behind it is like the punishment of like, I'm going to punish you until you reach out, because it's obviously not my fault. It's your fault. A lot of times silent treatment is waiting on the other person to reach out, or then they finally get to the place where they think you've learned your lesson and they just start coming back like nothing happened. Try to come back in by saying happy belated birthday. Yeah. They'll use birthdays, they'll use holidays. Like, I don't know, what's the next holiday coming up? Father's Day. That's coming up, right? No, like expect a text, expect a Hoover. Just them reaching out, remind you, hey, I'm still here, I'm still in your life, still able to control, still able to manipulate you. The reason why I kept attracting narcissists is because I was a narcissist and I had to heal myself to stop attracting those type of men. Interesting. Well, if the gifts and cards are to your kids, not you, then you get questioned, did you get my gift box for the kids? I mean, you can still give it to the kids in one sense. Like, biggest thing like with kids is having them understand like the truth of what's actually happening. It doesn't mean you need to badmouth the other person, because that'll come back to bite you as well. But being able to say like, hey, this is what's happening. This person, decided they didn't want to be in the relationship, so they went out with someone else. I mean, whatever it might be, but you want to be honest with your kids. Became friends with benefits after a relationship. How long will it last? Until you're no more used to them. We don't really miss them. We miss our dreams of the future with the fake person they presented. Yeah. You miss the fantasy. You miss the mask. The mask isn't real. Why doesn't he give me my clothes back? It's control. I would say just don't worry about it. Don't worry about the clothes. Like there's people who lose clothes like thousands of dollars. Like at the end of the day, like your health and mental safety is more important. Do I do one-on-ones with a narcissist? So yeah, I do have some one-on-ones with narcissists. I would say out of all the people that I see, it's probably about like 5% of all the clients that I see are narcissists. Out of that 5%, I'd probably say maybe 2% come back. And those people are the ones that either are honest or they're actually trying to get help. The majority of them never come back. But yeah, it's about 5% of people I see are narcissists or people with narcissistic traits. Majority of people I see are the survivors or the abuse victims that are coming out of that abusive relationship. And typically I focus on trying to help them work through the trauma bond and help them rewire their mind to be able to not think of the fantasy, not go back because of that thing that they're believing, that false narrative that's kind of going on underneath the surface. Then I try to step them through the aspect that I call limbo land, and that's walking through the aspect of detoxing from the narcissist, getting to a place where you're at the place where you're saying like, hey, I know this was toxic. I actually can start to feel and understand like, hey, this is actually okay for me to acknowledge what happened, and now I can move away. But that moment in between is where you're at peace because you're not being abused by the narcissist. They're not actively in your life, but it doesn't feel peaceful because you're detoxing. And as you detox, you have to continue to move forward to get to the place of like clarity, vision, and values of how are you going to continue to grow? How are you going to set those boundaries in the future for yourself so you don't go back to the narcissist and so you don't have another narcissist come into your life? That's what I work with people on like a one-on-one. So you can sign up by going to rawmotivations.com, or you can click on my link in the bio and you can snag a time there to be able to work through it. So there's a lot of different options that I have on there. I meet with people like one-off, like if you just want to meet one time. Sometimes I meet with people first like one time, and then they end up like signing up for like a package, and the packages are kind of scripted out of what we're going to work through, how we're going to process different things, like some of the things I'm going to try to teach and try to be able to help. Yeah, the detoxing phase is really hard because if you're not careful, and you see this even with addicts and everything like this, if you're not careful to get through the detox phase, a lot of times you're going to slide right back into the trauma bond because it feels so debilitating to not have that person in your life for one reason or another. So you have to understand when you're going through detox phase, like that hits you hard. It hits you physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, sexually, like anything. It hits you hard and you want to go back to that person. So yes, I still am with my wife. She left for a period of time. The only reason she came back was because she saw that I was working on my honest vulnerability and consistent change, that I was in therapy and working on myself regardless if she was going to come back. My narc actually asked the air, I wonder what my legacy will be. Wish I could say you're a narc and that's all. Yeah. Did you find helping people actually helps you grow too? Yes, I do. There's actually an aspect part of it. Like I do like I have my own stuff that I work on like every single day. And then I have therapy that I go to every single week. And then I also talk to people literally every single day. And sometimes working with different people and working with like through their trauma or through the thoughts that they're thinking, sometimes it's also like working on myself too, because I'm like, I know like I did this, I did this in a relationship. I caused this in a relationship. And so understanding, acknowledging, and being able to help people give closure and help walk them through that is also helpful as well in my journey of like being honest. I was addicted in the trauma bond. He said, if I'm so abusive, then why won't you leave me alone? A lot of times they're going to put it back on you. That's that cognitive dissonance of like, okay, if I'm abusive, then just leave. And then you get ready to leave and like, no, don't leave. Like they're going to always, that push and pull is huge. New supply knows of wife. Why go with him? Because he's feeding her a story. Probably feeding her a story that you're the awful person. Why block me when he hasn't before with any other discards? A lot of times if he blocks, it means he can come back and he can unblock anytime. How do you stop the social media stalking of the narc? Either set up a brand new account for yourself or get off social media. How do I help my friend see her daughter's dad is a narcissist? Her daughter's dad is a narcissist. How do I help her see it? You can try to educate her, like giving her like videos, helping her understand like what is actually going on. Why does the narc not leave you alone when they left? That hoover, that control, that power. He discarded me 3 years ago, but the cycles continue until last year. He reached out to my best friend by text and sent a pic of my mail that he received. Why? It's another way of like trying to build a contact, trying to build a control. Like just reaching out just to see if you reach out. I'm deep in this. My narc husband of 22 years, I can manage, but is it healthy for me not to leave him? It's not really super healthy to stay, but I would say if you're stuck in that relationship or that's something that you're doing, then work on yourself. Get into therapy, work on taking back your power, work on lifting what they put on you. My narc makes me have panic attacks now when we fight. Is this normal? Unfortunately, a lot of times it is. So there's been a couple times in the past with fights that I had with my wife that caused panic attacks, anxiety and panic attacks. I don't get it. I've asked him before with other discards, but now he blocks me. Like, work on yourself. Don't work on what don't think about like what they're working through. Like work on yourself. That's ultimately what matters the most. If they don't hoover, does that mean that they're not a narcissist? No, not necessarily. Might mean they have supply. They're enjoying someone else for a period of time until that runs out. Yeah, so my wife's so you're asking about my wife's journey to heal and support. So she's been in therapy longer than I have. She started off originally before I did with the EMDR therapy. That was like super helpful for her, just helping like clear past trauma, like early on in her life, and then also more recent trauma with stuff like in our marriage. A couple books that she's recommended to a lot of people when she's talked to them is Forgiving What You Can't Forget and The Body Keeps the Score. Those are some of the popular ones that's been influential in her journey. And then therapy has been like a big factor in her life. So she's been, like I said, she's been in therapy longer than I have. So I've been in therapy now with my current therapist, like talk therapy. I've been with her for 14 months, and that's going weekly. Gray Lizard, thanks so much. When the mask slips during the love bomb stage and they start saying awful, insulting things out of nowhere, is that how they really feel? Is it a result of jealousy or of both? So it could be of jealousy depending on like your status in the relationship in one sense, or it could be the way to be able to try to devalue, to be able to get you down to like their level. A lot of times if we're just talking love bombing and then, insulting, that's the devaluation phase. So it's like they put you up on the pedestal. Now it's time to bring you back down. Once you bring you back down on the pedestal, then you're always trying to get back up. That's a good supply for a narcissist because you're always trying to get back up. Good question. Currently seeing a therapist. Help me from CPTSD, PTSD. I suffer from the pain, but happy is gone. Yeah, absolutely. Why would you kick me out every argument? That's the idea of that, like, abandonment. Of, like, I'd rather kick you out before you kick me out. Yeah, no, if you're interested in talking more like one-on-one to try to be able to work through the trauma bond, or like that limbo land of detoxing, or even setting future vision, values, boundaries of where you're going to go, like, feel free to reach out. So my website's rawmotivations.com, or you can click the link in the bio to be able to grab a time to be able to talk. So I talked to, this past week was busy. Like, I just now have been going like full time with all of this. And this past week, I think was 40 appointments this past week. It was pretty busy. It was really cool to be able to talk with people and see people come back and start to see that healing and that growth and that change. I can't leave. Will I ever be able to? I'm not sure exactly what you mean by can't leave. There's typically almost always a way. I'm not trying to like put you down. I'm just saying there's typically almost a way. I knew a mom and is it a daughter or son? I don't remember. But a mom with one kid that they had to leave and get in like a homeless shelter for a period of time, or a women's shelter or something like that. They had to leave like that because they had to get out. I leave, but I go back. That's that aspect of that trauma bond. I'd love to be able to talk to you, try to be able to help out any way I can, but it's like rewiring what you're thinking, rewiring the missing him, rewiring the missing part that brings you back to that person. Are they aware of these cycles and exactly what they're doing? I wouldn't say always exactly what they're doing, but a lot of times they're aware, which is why those cycles only happen with certain people. Is it okay to say thank you to them or no reaction at all? I wouldn't do any reaction at all if you're going no contact. When they find a new supply, do they start treating you like a wife rather than a mistress? Yeah, I can see that. Anything besides no contact to get a narcissist ex-mistress to go the heck away? No, not really, just no contact, I would say. Why they feel so important and always right? That goes back to like the shame aspect of not wanting to admit that there's shame there, that they're not right. It's like that God complex. I feel like that's not a very good answer. I'm sorry. Yeah, no, absolutely. Glad to have you guys on here. I saw my ex-narc in public. When he sees me, he hit his face. Why? Maybe he's ashamed. Maybe. I know some that kind of like hide their face or kind of like move out of the way because they know that you have something on them, or like maybe some public exposure. I love my narc so much it hurts me to leave him. The thing is, it doesn't hurt him to abuse you. No amount of love is going to change that. So if you're actually looking at the situation, you're seeing that, hey, he's abusing and he's mistreating you, that doesn't cause him any pain. He's going to keep doing it. How do you know that you're not the narc? I would say take a look at what narcissism is, check out the 9 traits, and then focus on what level of these traits do I have in my life, and how do I work past those? How do I work to grow myself better? Everybody has some narcissistic tendencies or narcissistic traits. Why did I get blocked on all platforms besides Facebook? Maybe so he still has an in. I don't know. I work with him. He was at work but kept blaming me. Oh yeah, you're responding to. Why do they feel they have to stay friend? Why do they feel they have to stay friends with every ex? A lot of times they want to stay friends with every ex so they can keep going back, so they can keep having someone that's a form of supply, whether that's emotional or physical. A lot of times they like keeping that door open. How to stop ruminating about the next supply. After he was the abusive one, legal wife still, and lost everything again, he ignored my last text after you broke up with me and then took it back. That's a lot for me to process on the back half. So like how to stop ruminating about the next supply. A lot of that is focusing on what you're seeing about him, and the next supply is a projection, is just a show. The only person that has to convince you that they're in a happy relationship is the person that's unhappy, and that ultimately that's what they are. But a lot of times ruminating about the next supply, make sure you know contact, make sure you don't see the next supply on anything. Oftentimes that can be really, really harmful to your growth. But if you see stuff about the next supply, a lot of times you're seeing it from the outside of the relationship. You're seeing it from like the love bombing aspect where they think everything's great. Called him out on dating sites. Yeah. I think being a narc is a demonic spirit. No way there's a normal trauma reaction. I would tend to differ with you on that. It's interesting. Like most people like say like narcs like are demons, but like what about the sociopaths? What about the psychopaths? Like I would put them on a higher level than narcissists, to be honest. Do narcs really know that they're abusive? They know a lot of times that they're causing pain. Sometimes they don't know how to break the cycle or how to do something different, but they know that it's happening. Can you explain what it means when they don't choose everyone to cycle with? Like to go back, maybe? I think that might be what you're asking. You know, a lot of times it just depends on like who's there. Like they live in the moments, like who's next in one sense. What do you think of the statistics that the majority of male narcs are gay? I haven't seen statistics, and I haven't seen even the proof in anybody that I've talked to. I think if you deal with a male narcissist that is going all the way to the epitome of what a male narcissist is, or you could say like the farthest in like their sinful nature, or they get all the way into sex addictions and things like that, I think once they get so far in it, then a lot of times they flip because they've already tried everything. He took 2 of my guitars and they're new guitars and he has no phone. Is he trying to control me? Trying to control you or trying to hurt you? We are long distance and he has since moved within an hour of me. Should I be concerned he would show up? I would plan on it. It's important to remember that your relationship with others reflects your relationship with yourself. That's good. Caught him in several lies, still won't admit to them. Found out he's cheating on his current girlfriend, but claims she's the best thing to happen to him. Narc and I have a baby together. Yeah, a lot of times they'll keep cheating no matter what. Can't deal with him despising me because he's replaced me with her. He's replaced you with her, but that means he's found someone who won't actually hold him accountable or won't put up with, put up boundaries. Narc and psychopath, yeah, I would say like would be similar. It's kind of like along the spectrum. You say like narcs, you have like narcissistic tendencies and traits, and you have like sociopath, and you have psychopath. It's kind of like the thought process, the like progression in one sense. So you get higher up on the sociopath, psychopath, and it's more intentional and it's more planned out and it's more intentionally causing hurt for their own pleasure. Yeah, that's why the aspect of like our narcissists always thinking of a way to hurt their spouse. And it's not that they're always thinking of a way to hurt their spouse. It's how do they do stuff for them? And as a result, when they do stuff for them, it hurts other people. So like I only think about myself. So whatever my actions are all revolving around me. If that means you get hit in the process, if that means I steamroll over you because of my idea at work or whatever it might be, that means I'm the one that I'm looking after, not after you. Do they come back after calling the police after 6 years? He's 2 hours away. Should I be concerned? I'd say there's a possibility. Like, take precautions, be careful. I still have hope that you can change and get help like you did. How long do I wait? I'm going to therapy and working myself. Is having hope a trauma bond? Absolutely. Hope, potential, and cognitive dissonance are the three that I say about trauma bonds. And a lot of times you're stuck in a trauma bond thinking that they're going to get help, but they actually don't. So is he in consistent therapy? Is he being honest? Is he being vulnerable? And is the change that he's working on consistent right now? If those things aren't there, then walk away. I don't think I have necessarily a good answer of like what made me like choose my wife. There was an aspect that in moving on with that relationship, so let's say like from dating to that relationship, as it kept going through my mind as being like the next thing in like the next step in one sense. Like the like two relationships before her was like dating to a certain point. The next one was dating to almost engagement. Then it was like dating, engagement, marriage. Like it was always like, well, this is what I'm supposed to do. This is next. Sometimes the aspect of like this person might make me look or feel normal because I know that there's something wrong. I just don't know what it is. A lot of times it's looking for that ideal love, that ideal person in one sense that I think it's going to make it work. If I can't leave, how can I survive this? Looking at working on yourself, taking back your self-confidence, your self-esteem, working on understanding that, hey, what they put on you is not your blame. They'll try to blame you just about everything. Lived in 4 months, found a place and moved out. Once I was settled, he discarded me. So how do ex-narcs come to realization and get help? What's the breaking point? A lot of times I don't think narcissists have a breaking point. Like a lot of people ask, like, is there a rock bottom or how do you like turn on the light switch in one sense? And I don't think a lot of narcissists have a rock bottom. I don't think that I necessarily had a rock bottom. I think when a narcissist hits rock bottom, they pivot into victim mode. When a narcissist falls off the cliff and hits rock bottom, they're like, how could the cliff do that to me? Do narcs think their perspective is the only right one? Yes. So how I changed was also with therapy, like getting into therapy. That was definitely like huge in my growth. One of the biggest things too is I went through a group called Wake Up Warrior, Wake Up Warrior Challenge. So wakeupwarrior.com, and that really opened up my eyes to like the lies that I had in my life. And those lies were keeping me from myself, keeping me from God, keeping it from my wife, keeping me from being honest in all different aspects of my life. I actually have that on YouTube. I've got the lies I believe, and there's like a whole series on that. Do all narcissists know there's something wrong? I think a lot of narcissists know that there's something different, and I would say at the very lowest level awareness, I think a lot of narcissists think that there's something weird. Maybe they don't acknowledge it all the time because they're compartmentalizing or boxing it up, but I think they know that something's different, which is why they try to change, which is why they try to hide a lot of things. Do they blame their victims because they have shame? Yeah, like so like I have shame for what I do, so I'm going to blame you saying it's your fault. Like you're the one that made me do it. If you would have put out more, if you would have loved me more, if you would have respected me, like all these different types of things, it has to go back on you so that I don't feel the blame and the shame of what I actually did to hurt you. Do you think that all narcissists are cheaters? And if they've cheated, will they always cheat? I think all narcissists are cheaters. And if they cheated, will they always cheat? If they're not willing to be honest, vulnerable, and change, then yeah, they're going to continue to cheat and they're going to continue to struggle with narcissistic traits, tendencies. Yeah, mine fell into depression, and that's when he finally told me I was the one for him and he wanted to be with me forever, meaning save me when sadly you can't. Yeah, a lot of times they'll play the victim, so you'll try to save them. You'll try to run into their lives and fix them. Why did my narc baby mom discard me for a downgrade? Because the downgrade wasn't the issue and neither was you. It's all about them. So it's whatever they could get supply. Probably one of the two biggest things that helped make it click for me. One was going through a group Wake Up Warrior. The other one was getting involved with a girl who had BPD and narcissistic traits. Do you think narcs purposely make you question your memory so that they can be right? Absolutely. That's called gaslighting. Did you tell your wife? Did your wife tell you she thought you were a narcissist? One time, yes. So, but that was in a period of like a moment where I was like starting to figure out like there's a cycle. I don't know what's going on. Like I like hate this in one sense. And I asked her one time, I was like, maybe I'm like a sociopath. Like I don't know what's going on. We like looked it up and we were both like, no, I don't think you're a sociopath. And then saw narcissism and she was like, I think you're a narcissist. And I was like, what? Like, no, I'm not a narcissist. Then I went out and like got other supply to go back and tell her that I wasn't a narcissist. Like the whole gambit. Do I miss my exes? I said no, not necessarily. Especially the one with BPD. Do not miss her. Whenever we're like out in town, I have to like watch out for a certain car to make sure if there's a car there, I'm checking the license plate, and if it's hers, then we're not going in that store. That whole like paranoia like going around, like that's real in my life too, of where we're going, what we're doing. Yeah, no, I would say I was like mad. I was like upset in one sense. I don't remember being like mad, but like of course, like I'm not. I mean, it was more or less like I was like devaluing her argument of like me being a narcissist. It also wasn't like a giant argument in that exact moment. But yeah, I was using other people to try to tell her that I wasn't a narcissist. Is there any ways to make a narcissist person think about you constantly, or how do I prove myself to a narcissist? Prove yourself how? What are you trying to prove? Once they call you a horrible name, how can they not realize that was a huge mistake? That's implying that they have that conscience to say that name is a mistake. Like at the end of the day, the narcissist only cares about themselves. So whatever they call you, they think is justified because they think they're entitled. How do you deal with running into an ex who's a narcissist? Run and ignore. And that's what I would do. That's what I would do right now. Like literally, like I kid you not, like with the whole, like the girl that I was with BPD and narcissistic traits, like it is a conscious thing because like we live in the same town. Like we live in the same town. So like for me going out and about, there's also there's part of town that we don't go into. Like we call it like that's the enemy's territory. Like there's part of town that we do not go into. Okay. But then there's also like when we're out and about, like there's also like when I'm walking into a store, a lot of times I'm scanning the parking lot to see what car's in the parking lot because I know what car she has. And I know if that car is in the parking lot, then I'm going to check the license plate to see if it's that person's car. If it's that person's car, I'm not going into that store. If anything, I'm getting in my car and I'm going away as fast as I can. Give you an idea, I went to therapy a couple of weeks ago and walked up and saw a car that was there. It wasn't that person, but it was another person that was not an ex, but was a toxic person in my life that I do not want to have in my life. Like that's a hard boundary if I don't want to see that person because of how fake they are. And so I saw that car at counseling and I was like, crap. And like I tried to make sure I got into counseling without seeing them because that wasn't something I wanted to expose myself to. Does your ex with BPD know you watch your back because of her? I don't know. She's blocked on everything. Unless she like checks my YouTube. I don't know. We have to be careful of what we do or where we go sometimes. How long did it take on working on you to get to where you are today? So to give you an idea, I've been in therapy for 14 months weekly. Before that, I did a little bit of EMDR therapy as well. And then there was also Wake Up Warrior that was spread in between there as well. on part of my journey. Probably one of the biggest things that helped me change was Wake Up Warrior. I recommend it to every narcissist that I talk to. Some go through it and there's some change. Others have gone through it and there's zero change, because it only works of how honest you're going to be. If you go into it and you're not honest, you're not willing to put in the work, you're not going to get anything out of it. I was a strong and happy person before I met him. Now all I do is cry. Trust me, you can get that power back. It's going to take some time, but you have to sacrifice that person that you knew, that person that you thought was real, because they're not. Poetry, yeah, it'd be great to be able to talk to you one-on-one. Feel free to reach out. Yeah, if you guys are interested in talking one-on-one sometime, you can click my website, Raw Motivation. You can click my link in the bio. Yeah, I think everybody has some form of narcissism, narcissistic traits. I mean, everybody can be selfish. You know, even empaths can be like manipulative at times with like emotions, things like that. Doesn't make them a narcissist. He told my neighbors that I was off my meds. They believed I was insane. Yeah, a lot of times they'll take your reactive abuse and try to turn it around. If someone is cheating on you knowingly and doesn't want to let you go, how do I leave knowing what I know? If they're cheating and they won't let you go, that's abuse, manipulation, a lot of other things. Pack your bags and walk out. Hey, Heavenly Places. I didn't see you in here earlier. No contact, 8 months. My ex-narc came to my new job with new supply. My boss told him not to come there, but he still does. For one, awesome with your boss. Like, that's encouraging, at least. Is he doing this intentionally to hurt me, even though there's no contact for 8 months? I would say yes. My ex-narc saw my current girlfriend at a festival and told her she thought my current girlfriend would have reached out long ago about me. What's that about? Ex-narc saw my current girlfriend at a festival and told her she thought my current... it sounds like control, triangulation, like trying to get a reaction. Do I speak to the narcissist or just victims? So right now, I'd say probably the majority of people that I talk to is about 95% the victims and 5% the narcissists, and 2% of the narcissists maybe come back. Maybe 1% come back. Asked my ex-narc for financial help today. His response was, evil, I'm so broken. They're not going to give you financial help. I'm sorry. They don't think that they should. Like, they don't think they need to. They're entitled. What if they leave us questioning if they're the narcissist, though? At that point, you're probably not the narcissist. And I would advise you to just work on yourself and get help, because there's a story that you're probably telling yourself, or a thought that you're trying to believe, that's putting their action as your responsibility, which is not. Yeah, so there's a question going on underneath your head, like a thought going through your head, thinking that you're the narcissist. And that's put on you by them. But it takes us some time to be able to get down below that and actually change that thought process. How do you deal with covert narcissists? A woman. So the woman's a narcissist, I think you're saying? So yeah, like with that, like you have to set boundaries. And if they're not willing to if they're not willing to keep your boundaries, then you know that their level of care isn't there for you at all. But yeah, thanks so much, Sherry. I appreciate it. Covert narcissists that are women are scary. I think they're harder to find. Like, they're harder to see. Let me clarify that. What's something that we can call ourselves that isn't a victim? A healing survivor. So narcissists don't come back to the exes. A lot of times they do. It depends if you leave the door open. Hey, haven't seen you in a while. I do, I don't. You changed I forgot that you changed your tagline. Whatever it is, username. It's good to see you. Do your parents try to advise you to treat others better, or do they seem indifferent to your narc tendencies of how you treated people? In other words, do they seem ashamed of their son? I would say initially, whenever I told them about like the cheating and the narcissism, I think I felt that from them. I think right now they're starting to feel a little bit more established in like who I am and what I'm doing. Partly too because I'm doing this like full time now. They can't really like explain that away to people of what does your son do now? He does this because he's this. But yeah. What's your take on the narc? Just not letting you go, saying she's trying, not blowing up, understanding she's going to counseling, but it's like it's just sharpening her narcissistic skill set. So if she's still like abusing, controlling, manipulating, like the narc tendencies, then it's all just manipulation. Apology without change is just manipulation. And that's good. If he doesn't want me to leave, does he love me? If he doesn't want me to leave, does he love me? No, he probably just wants to keep that control. Like if he's showing you narcissistic tendencies, if he's showing you that he doesn't care by his actions, and then he doesn't want you to walk out the door when you finally say you're done, that does nothing to do with him loving you. That has all to do about control. And the aspect that a lot of times they want you to leave, but at the very end they're going to try to get you to stay so they can tell everybody else that they try to get you to stay. You can't convince anybody that they need help, unfortunately. You can try to attack the problem and the behaviors, but just oftentimes telling them they're a narcissist or accusing them of that isn't going to get anywhere. Why they argue so much, even the most trivial conversations. They want to be right, they have to be right. So they're going to keep it about them no matter what. Do narcissists miss you when you ignore them? Do they lie about caring about you? Yes, they lie about caring about you, and they miss the control they have over you. My estranged husband changed his profile pic to me and the dog. Is he baiting me to unblock him? 100%. Your take on Amber Heard? That's the hot topic. I haven't watched a ton of it. I've kind of kept myself out of it a little bit. I think the last news bit that I caught was like the idea of her maybe having like histrionic, which is even more scary than just BPD or narcissism, I think. I tried to break up with him, but he charmed me back into staying, discarded me the next day. Yeah, because he wanted to be in control of it. He didn't like the idea of being abandoned or rejected by you. He wanted to be in control of that narrative. Kent, thanks so much. Take care. Why do they marry if they're narcissistic? A lot of times it's the idea of appearing normal to society, thinking that that's ideal love and that'll fix them, thinking that maybe the cycle will stop. A lot of different thoughts kind of go into that. Why would they not want you, but not? Why would they not want you, but not want you to move on? So that's the aspect of control, and that you're theirs. Like you're their property. So like if I can't have you, then nobody can have you. Makes sense. I don't think two narcissists can fall in love because their definition of love is not love. Two narcissists might be able to be together. I don't think it lasts long term. Why would my covert narcissist leave for someone that's a downgrade? That's because they don't care if it's an upgrade or a downgrade. They care that it's someone that they can get supply from that will give them supply. Mia, thanks so much. I appreciate it. He told me he hopes I find someone who will make me happy. Good. Keep him blocked and move and try to find someone that makes you happy. Why don't they stop hoovering when you push away or no longer care? When you push away, that definitely is like a tease of like them trying to come back at you. So I would make sure you block completely. I brought up boundaries, never respected them. That all of a sudden he had boundaries. What? So that's like where the narcissist educates themselves on what you're teaching them. So like you said, like, oh, I need to set these boundaries. Then like a couple weeks later, they're like, oh, I have these boundaries. Like you should be following my boundaries now. Like all that is they're starting to learn and educate. If they didn't respect your boundaries, that means they didn't care. How can they treat you so good at the beginning? A lot of times they're learning how to manipulate. They're learning like what you want, how you interact, and so then they can take that away, and so that they keep coming back. So supply is when they're getting something from somebody. So like supply, like a lot of times people think of like supply in like the good form of like you giving me love, attention, and affection. Other times there's like the idea of like bad supply of you just giving me attention, period, by calling me out or by like attacking me or whatever, by reacting. That's still supply. How do I reverse your indirect manipulation? One, by not falling prey to it. So like not letting the manipulation actually affect you or happen. So a lot of manipulation is to get you to react. And so not reacting to it is crucial along there. Sometimes it might be along the lines of like, that's not true. Like this is what actually happened, setting those boundaries so that if that manipulation happens, you say like, hey, like I'm not doing that. Jeannie, I don't see your question, so I'm not sure what you're asking. I saw something about a dog, and that was it. I agreed to share the dog, and now he's ignoring me. That's the only thing I see. Do you think that it's possible after 20 years for a narcissist to truly trust you? So after 20 years, then the narcissist is going to trust you? Why do you want them to trust you? I'm a little confused with the question. Is it common for them to escalate their behaviors once you get stronger and are onto them? Yes, I would say so. Why they want a negative reaction, obviously, but they just want a reaction because reaction means they control you. That's difficult to do when they have to make one. Hey, good to see you. That's difficult to do sometimes when your mind is all twisted up from the mental abuse. Yeah, that's why you have to work on getting clear and learning like what's the story. Like what's the story, and then what's like the truth of the situation. Like someone you were married to for 20 years, after 20 years, could you trust him? Could he be trusted? I think that's what you're trying to say. How can you solve the self-blame and why they did those mean things to you? So the aspect of the self-blame is you acknowledging like the truth of what's actually going on. So like acknowledging like what actually happened, what they've actually said, the truth of the situation. The only way to be able to take the blame from yourself and put it back on the person who actually has the responsibility of that blame is to acknowledge where those responsibilities actually lie. So like, did you make him cheat? Did you make him lie? Did you control, all these different aspects of things that he blamed you for? Yeah, sorry, I do one-on-ones, so you can reach out either at rawmotivations.com or click the link in the bio. But yes, I do one-on-ones as well. What was that question? Yeah, I lost the one that I was looking for. Sorry. I learned quickly to go completely emotionless during rage and silent treatment, have him no additional power, and left me with no regrets on how I behave. Any tips on how to help us stick to boundaries when that love bomb was extremely successful? It's not easy. So understanding that the love bomb is exactly that. It's just manipulation. And like being able to write the actual story to that. So when you can acknowledge it and be like, hey, what you're doing right now is just love bombing me. I'm not saying to tell them that, but like, in your head, like this is actually what's going on. This isn't real. What do you recommend if you have to stay in the marriage in the moment? If you can practice gray rocking safely, then do it, but be careful. Gray rocking, I think, works 50% of the time, and sometimes it can make the situation escalate even more. So I'd be careful about that. But if you have to stay in that relationship, you want to try to be able to manage it however you can to be able to get to your exit strategy so you can get out. So if he has NPD, and after 20 years, is he showing honest vulnerability, consistent change, and going to therapy? Like if he's not working on it and you're not actually seeing change, then no, you can't trust him. He wanted me to trust him from day one. I was told trust is built. He disagreed. Yeah, because he thought trust was owed to him. Did you choose to do the Wake Up Warrior program therapy on your own, or were you asked to try it? No, good question. No, I chose to do it. I actually stumbled across it, and it was like, basically like, is your life not working out? And it has a really good like video. I can't like sum it up because it's a long video, but yeah, I had a really good video, and I was like, I'm gonna go ahead and try this because my life is not working. Let's see how this works. Yeah, that's a good question. I went to what was it? I went to like a sex addiction intensive before I did that, and before I like started acknowledging even stuff like about narcissism. That's kind of what kind of put me on the track even of slightly admitting it too, is I was like, I know it's not a sex addiction, and then I tracked it back to being more like the narcissism. Like it was kind of like a debate of like, do I have a sex addiction or like narcissism? And it was like, no, like it actually is narcissism. It's not the other. Would you recommend letting the new supply know they're dating a narcissist? So, number one, if the new supply knew about you and the whole like cheating aspect, then like good riddance. Number two, like whenever you're thinking about letting the new supply know, understand that with the new supply, they've probably already been groomed to know that the crazy person is going to reach out to them. I'm in the state of Virginia. Random question, but there you go. So I see a therapist that has narcissism and sex addiction as one of their specialties in their background, but she also does a lot of other stuff as well. Like she's taught stuff on like narcissism. She's very knowledgeable in it, but then she also dabbles in a lot of different types of psychology and therapy and things like that. So there's different things that we try, like DBT and I can't think of some of the other ones. Even like energy work, I guess you could say. There's a lot of different things. Is it possible for a narcissist go for a supply source that is unattractive and lie about their sex drive being low to get out of sex? A lot of times when they lie about their sex drive being low, it's because they're getting it from someone else or from pornography. But it's for them to be able to go to a source that's unattractive to them. It doesn't really matter. It matters what they're getting from that other person. Doesn't matter how they look or how they act. Do narcissists love bomb throughout the relationship? A lot of times they don't. Sometimes they do whenever there is, things that like pop up, whenever they get called out for something. Wake Up Warrior, good for folks trying to regain ourselves and help leave all this behind. Yeah, no, I would recommend Wake Up Warrior to everybody. I think it's incredibly effective, and it's really good for everybody in one sense. It's geared a lot towards guys, but they do have a whole like separate like women's group, and then if you join like the Warrior Shelter, that's all mixed together. There's guys and gals in the Warrior Shelter, but it's powerful. I have actually a thing coming up next week with their fact map, and that's where we set up for the next like quarter. It's really exciting. So it's impossible games. That's kind of what it is, and it's setting up for your impossible game, which is a 18-month challenge, and it's a total of 6 different challenges, 6 different quarters leading up to some impossible goals. So it's really exciting, kind of moving forward with that. The biggest mistake was cheating on my narc. He brought it up when we would get in a fight or during discards. Yeah, they can cheat all they want, but as soon as you cheat on them, like it's like game over. Like that's what they're gonna use for like the rest of your life to blame you, to shame you, to say everything that's the problem. Wake Up Warrior is not for narcissists. No, like it's not meant just for narcissists. So it's not geared in that direction at all. Some of the stuff I used from it works great with narcissists. Thanks so much. Appreciate it. Met someone who has a high narc traits. I also noticed addiction to alcohol, sex, and gambling. What is the connection? So a lot of times with high narcissistic traits, they're going to have addictions, and normally those addictions are there for sedation. Watching from Japan. Hello. As far as I remember, that might be the first person who said they're from Japan. Who is Wake Up Warriors aimed at? So it'd be aimed at first of men, and then two, just people that want to raise their quality of life. So like the Warriors code is to live real, raw, relevant, to produce results. And you do that in 4 aspects: in body, being, balance, and business. So I take care of myself, like physically, mentally, how I interact with my wife, with balance, how I interact with my inner self, or my relationship with God, that'd be being, and then business, how I'm producing and how I'm contributing to the world and how I'm contributing to like making money for my family. Yeah, thank you so much. I appreciate it. I'm glad it's been helpful on your journey. I still love him. I hate it. I know that he did me wrong. I know I deserve better, but I can't turn. So the reason you can't turn your back on him is because you're selling yourself a story. Maybe that's you're a bad person if you do that. Maybe that's you giving up. Maybe that's losing that hope or that potential, or maybe you just think you can't do that to a good person. But at the end of the day, there's a thought that's going through your head that's keeping you there, that ultimately is going to sabotage who you are and hurt you longer. Is there a final discard? Great question. I think that's coming out tomorrow. Yes. So you have to wait till tomorrow. Look on YouTube tomorrow. When is the final discard? That's the title of it. I'll just keep you in a suspense. No, wait. That was today. I haven't refreshed. My YouTube hadn't refreshed, so it was like showing me from earlier. So I logged on different computer. Okay, it's out. When was the final discard? Check it out on YouTube. Final discard is when you make sure there's the final discard. When you make sure that there's not a way to be able to come back. Yeah, Beth, just check out Wake Up Warrior. Go to wakeupwarrior.com. Watch the video. It's pretty impactful. Mia, thanks so much. I appreciate it. Why do they compare you to their exes? It's called triangulation, trying to up the supply, trying to make you look or do things better without actually having to put any work in. A lot of times I've heard from a couple different people about like narcissism being able to kind of shift between both in one sense. I would say I'd be more on the covert side. The overt side that would come out of me would be more along the lines of whenever I was in like the workplace environment. I would say I've been more overt in that aspect. Yeah, the final discard is when you decide it's the final discard. They like a lot of people. A common question sometimes I get is people are like, "Why won't he just block me? Like we just broke up, and I told him to block me and leave me alone. Like why won't he just block me?" And like I need you to understand, like if they didn't respect your boundaries or what you wanted in the relationship, what makes you think they're going to respect that once they get out of the relationship? You got to take that step and block them, because otherwise they're not going to do it. The person I was before I met him, and after I met him are two completely different people. Yes, but the person you could be now is so much more than the first person, because now you can grow and you can change more than what you even knew is even possible, because you've been through more than what you knew is even possible. How do you think a narc will respond to having to get a mental health evaluation per court orders, since they hate accountability? They're probably going to hate it. They're probably going to not show up for it. My narc ex cheated on me with his new wife, and they've been married for 10 years. I guess that was the final discard because he never came back. I mean, that's good for you. You can focus on your health and your growth. Yeah, so just so you guys know, like what's kind of been going on with Raw Motivations, I do offer one-on-ones. I meet with people like every day. This past week was a busy week. I think I met with like 40 different people, like just helping people like get out of the trauma bond, break free from like the whole aspect of like detoxing from a narcissist and getting their clarity and growing and changing. If you want to talk sometime on like a one-on-one, feel free to go to my website, rawmotivations.com, or click the link in my bio. We do have a resource that's put out there so people have it in their hands to be able to process their stories, to be able to track their no contact, to be able to write down their truth on a day-to-day basis, and that is the NARC app. It came out just a couple months ago. There's over 2,500 people who've signed up for it. Like, please check it out. It's called NARC, N-A-R-C, Narcissistic Abuse Recovery Community. You can get it on Apple and you can get it on Google Play. You can download it from there and you can join that community. We've got exclusive lives that are coming up on Mondays. Also, we have exclusive. I'm still like not saying it correctly. We have exclusive like monthly Zoom calls that we're doing with people that are on the second tier of the app as well. So check that out. That's another resource and tool we're trying to help with to educate people. There's a fantastic course that just came out just this past week by Bree. She runs Abuse is Abuse, if you guys know her on Instagram or on TikTok. But she came out with an awesome course about boundaries. I think it's got like 7 different lessons inside the whole course, just teaching and showing you stuff about boundaries, what boundaries look like, how to set boundaries, all different stuff like that. So please check that out. There's some really awesome stuff there. Right now, the live schedule is we have lives inside the app, and for that second tier on Monday nights, I go live Wednesday nights, either on my platform or on Lee's platform, and that streams to Facebook and YouTube. And then Thursday nights, I normally go live on all the platforms, just like I am right now. What do we ask? What to do for the psychic images and the feelings of invisible energy attacks and chronic pain? So some of that, I would say, one would be like therapy, obviously. Two would be working with like a not sure the right way to say it, like a whole like wellness doctor in one sense, to see like what levels need to be helped like leveled out in one sense, because I think that's really important. I don't think that two narcissists can fall in love. I think two narcissists could be together, but it's going to be toxic, and I don't think it'll last long term. Yeah, if y'all would just keep sharing like the videos, keep sharing like the awareness. There's more people out there that don't realize what all's going on. Like literally, I was at the dentist this past week, and somebody that was there, I was talking to one of the dental hygienists, and she was asking me like what I did for a living, and I said like, well, I actually just like quit my job, and now I'm doing this, and like explain a little bit what I did. Like a couple minutes later, like someone like stuck their head in the door, and it was like, hey, like, do you have a business card? Like, can I reach out and can I talk to you sometime? Because they were going through that. Like, you never know like who's around you that's dealing with this stuff. How do you suggest dealing with triggers? So if you're talking about triggers for your own life, do not avoid them. You need to work through them. You need to see what's underlying that trigger. What's the story that's prompting that trigger, and help deal with that to change the story so that that trigger has less effect on your life. Dealing with triggers and like the story is like exactly what I do when I work with people with one-on-ones. Absolutely. Thank you so much. Appreciate it. How do you deal with a narcissist that harasses you because you caused a narcissistic injury? That's odd because a lot of times if you cause a true narcissistic injury, like they won't really like they won't harass. They won't kind of like come back in one sense. But a lot of times that harassment is definitely real. It's a lot of times hard to get out of, especially like if you can find a way to be able to track it really well so you can bring it into the court system, a lot of times that helps. Lacey, thanks so much. I appreciate you helping out on the app and being on there. You need to help just like sharing the app, but also sharing inside the app. More people need to have a voice in there, but I appreciate it. Have you ever, that was a good question. I haven't had that in like probably ever. Have you ever felt truly seen and understood by anyone? Yes, once. Why at the end of the day they claim incompatibility and just need to be in different relationships? Such BS after telling you for years how you're perfect for them. Yeah, no, I actually called someone out on that the other day. I was on a one-on-one with a narcissist, and I was like, no, like you're just being selfish and you're running away. You're being like a kid that says, let me take my toys and go play somewhere else because I'm not getting my needs met. And I was like, the thing is, you're going to go in the next relationship and nothing's going to change. Like just going to another relationship isn't going to fix you. We'll see what happens, but surprisingly, he did call back another day and apologize. Are they more likely to send flying monkeys if you cause a narcissistic injury? Yes. I can't say that like emphatically. I feel like flying monkeys are anytime in one sense. Lasher, thanks so much. I appreciate it. Really do appreciate it. Why is it so hard to expose a covert narcissistic mother in front of her family? Sometimes the family doesn't want to admit it, to admit that there's actually something wrong. Other times it's ingrained in like what they're doing. You know, they're afraid. I think I'm able to, at the very least, increase cognitive empathy. Yes. We're still working on the rest of it. Can I explain my cycle example again? Might be a little hard because I think it would be a little backwards. Let's see. I have it here because I just wrote it the other day, or earlier. Is it backwards? It looks backwards to me. I think it's like only like correct on like one screen. Let me know if it looks backwards. It's backwards. Okay, sorry. I don't know how to make it not backwards. I have to like turn the camera around, I guess. It'd be really cool if I could like resize this or make it flip. I can rotate it, but I can't flip it. So a lot of times what you have with like the cycle, it's probably not backwards on YouTube. Yeah, it's probably backwards on everything else. Is it? Yeah, so it'll be backwards on everything else. Yeah. So what you have is you have life. You have life that's happening. That's even hard to see. You have life that's happening, and it continues going on, and then all of a sudden you have a moment. And that might be you calling out the narcissist. That might be something going on that something blows up, but you have a moment that happens. And oftentimes these are a trigger. There's an event that happens. Okay. As this event happens, maybe it's you calling out the narcissist, maybe it's them getting caught, maybe it's them raging out, like whatever it might be. Like there's a moment that happens, and as soon as that happens, they start to slide down. And this is stuff that I learned with like the warrior group. So this stuff where it starts to slide down into the aspect. The first thing they hit is the idea of like guilt. They don't want to feel guilt. Guilt unleashes shame. Guilt and shame are like right neck and neck with each other in one sense. And the guilt and the shame they have to be able to process as quick as possible, because it's anti-narcissism. It attacks the God mentality. It attacks like the high ego. So they have to be able to get away from guilt and shame as fast as possible. Think of it, if you're cooking and you touch the stove and it's hot and you jerk your hand back because it's hot. That's the same concept. That's the same feeling mentally it is for a narcissist to experience guilt and shame, to jerk back. I have to get away from it as fast as possible. So that guilt and that shame, so then they get to the place where they have to be able to blame. And they're going to blame someone else for what's going on. There's some that they'll blame themselves, like, I'm just such an awful person, you don't deserve me. But then there's other ones that they blame you for what's going on. They blame you for their actions. And when that blame doesn't take, and when that blame doesn't fix the problem, then they slide down to the rest of it, down to rage. And that rage just perpetuates the cycle. But that rage is because they're not getting what they want. They're not getting it fixed. They're not getting it resolved. And they have to do anything they can to get back up to where life was like normal, where everybody wasn't mad at each other. And so as a result, to get back up to where life is, a lot of times you'll have the love bombing, the gaslighting, the future faking, anything to be able to get back up to where they weren't being held accountable and where it wasn't feeling awkward. But the problem is when they get back up there, life continues like normal, and then you get to a place where there's another trigger, and the cycle happens over and over and over again. And that cycle will happen multiple times inside one argument. That's why you have one argument that starts small and it blows up to be the biggest thing ever, because that cycle is firing off multiple times. No, I don't think codependents can be narcissists. I asked my narcissist if he loved me, and he couldn't express the same feelings even though he responded in an apology. Yeah, I put a video up a while back on TikTok that blew up for a period of time that was like, if you want to catch up a narcissist, ask them how they love you, or ask them what they love about you, something like that. Do they actually believe their own lies and alter reality as a way to cope? Yes. A lot of times they get to a place where they're gaslighting others and gaslighting themselves. They miss some attention and some emotional growth. So yes, they're very insecure. Yeah. Shame is what's like underlying a lot of narcissism. In a weird way, narcissism is a form of codependency. If you watch any of Dr. Ramani's videos, yeah, part of that is also, in my opinion, just talking to another psychologist that doesn't believe that the codependency is equivalent with narcissism. It's kind of like on a different plane in one sense. But yeah, I could see the concept there. He discarded 10 women at the same time, told them they meant nothing to him. He did this to get me back. All just games. I asked him what his favorite thing about me was. He says, my loyalty. Yeah. Your loyalty because you stay when he does whatever he wants. How can I tell if my girlfriend is a full-blown narcissist or someone with narcissistic abuse that's picked up fleas? At the end of the day, how are they demonstrating consistent change, honest vulnerability, wanting to work on themselves? Look at the actions, not the title. I finally came to understand that my ex never loved me. He loved everything I have to offer him. They love their image of themselves. No contact, 3 months, blocked everything. He called my Alexa. Yes. Did you message me? Or maybe I saw it on a comment someplace. And he texted my son. He ignored. Yeah, you did. But yeah, like that was a new one. I'd never heard that one before. Like I didn't know that he could like call your Alexa. I didn't even know that worked that way. It's kind of crazy. Why they block and unblock over a small period of time is triggering, and it says I'm the one playing games. The reason why they do it is because it's triggering, because they know it messes with you. You might reach out. Ultimately, they want to be able to see. Knowledge is power. Does being a narc have anything to do with being in the military? No, it doesn't. Sometimes CPTSD can be confused, or PTSD can be confused. A lot of times you can have narcissism comes from like early childhood. I could see like there's different aspects of, not wanting to open up, not wanting to have emotions, things like that. They can come from military stuff for sure. Did your wife know about narcissism before you were diagnosed? No, she didn't. I mean, it's like a learning process on both of us. It wasn't necessarily that, well, okay, no. Yeah, no, she did know some about narcissism before because she followed Lee before I became aware. So I recant what I actually said to start off with. Sorry. How do you get a narcissist to express their true feelings about you? My bad advice would be to get them drunk, and then you probably have the closest idea. But a lot of times they're not going to open up and actually tell you what they actually think. Typically, that's going to come out when they're like raging at you. Y'all having this whole like side chat on what sign these people are. What is going on? Y'all be crazy over here. She moved in across the street from me. Should I just ignore it completely when I drive past? Yes. I found out through Alexa he had women in my room when I was gone. How did you find out? Like, did you like tell Alexa to like spy or something? Like, how does that work? That's super interesting. It's gonna be a race to buy Alexas all over the country. It'd be like the tip or whatever for everybody. You buy an Alexa, stick it in your room, figure out if they're cheating. I don't know how that works. That's interesting though. I believe that being an alcoholic brought my ex's narcissism to the surface. She wasn't that way before alcoholism. Her mom was a narc, in my opinion, as well. Yeah. What are your thoughts on exposing narcissists to people in her life, such as therapists, friends, or family? If a therapist doesn't see it, then that's kind of like a useless therapist. Friends or family are probably already gaslighted or already believe that they're not, you know? I searched the history and she was on it asking to play music. I heard them talking. So you can search the history and like hear people talking. I'm like fascinated now. I like the techie side, but that's like super cool. You like hide that, like put that in the app. So it's only like people that get on that like are narcissists, are in narcissistic abusive relationships and like hey, everybody go out and buy you Alexa and stick it in the room. I feel like there's going to be a whole skit on that. That's crazy. How to lower the chances of my child becoming narcissistic? That's a really good question. Building emotional safety for them, helping them be able to express their emotions, having like that safe aspect where they can come and talk to you just about anything and everything, like helping them actually process their emotions and understanding their emotions don't have to control them. Yeah, I'm super fascinated. I want to like learn how to do that. I think that'd be like really cool to let people know. Do they actually love their kids? They love what their kids provide for them. And they love where their kids give them an image. But the majority of the time, kids are an inconvenience unless they're helping them. Do they rage more when you get them drunk, or are you more calm? For they rage when you get them drunk, or are you more calm? I think a lot of narcissists like rage more, or like the truth comes out, whether that's through rage or not. Yeah, it sounds good. Tell me on our 101, and I'd love to be able to know. Be able to spread awareness to a lot of people. We'll like rebrand Alexa, like put it narc catchers and start sending it out. Is it possible it can be a narcissist at the age of 12? And what is the blank of this? I don't know what's going on there. But yeah, there would be like the possibility of having narcissistic tendencies, but it's not necessarily like locked in until as they start maturing a little bit older. But yeah, I mean, everybody's going to have tendencies at some level or another, but still working with them, helping them grow and develop. Yeah, no, I mean, I'm glad you found the proof on the Alexa, because a lot of people don't get proof. A lot of people don't get that, and they have to work through it a different way. even though I'm not glad that it happened, but it is helpful in one sense when people are able to see like that proof. Do they realize what caused their disorder? Well, they're typically not even acknowledging that they have a disorder, much less to do the hard work to see what's wrong with them or what caused it. They use their children and get what they want. Do they even really care about their children? Doesn't seem like they care and use them as pawns. So yeah, I was kind of touching base on that. Is they care about either what they're going to get out of them, like the pawn aspect. They care about what image they're going to do. I mean, the cold hard truth is, do narcissists care about their children? No. 9 times out of 10, they care about what they can do for them. They care about their image. Like if they can look like a good dad or a loving mom, then yeah, they'll use the kids. But as soon as the kids they become an inconvenience, which oftentimes they do, that's it. When you look back, when you feel like narcissism was cemented for you, that's a good question. I haven't seen you on here in a while. Well, you were on the other night, but like besides that, I haven't been on here in a while. Coming in with the hard hitting questions. Cemented, I would say like around like 13 or so is when I feel like a lot of this the lies were cemented. Being able to lie and like manipulate. That like thought, I know, like tracking it back to that was like a commonplace at that point. Will they hurt your children? Will they hurt their children to hurt you? They'll use their children to hurt you. A lot of times they won't necessarily hurt them, but that is a possibility. Do you find the narcissists have grandiose ideas and rigid beliefs about gender roles? Mine was obsessed with his bloodline. Possibly, yeah. I can see that. Yeah, no, absolutely. I'd love to be able to talk to you and help out any way I can. So if you guys do want to talk like one-on-one, I do have one-on-ones available where I try to help people like work through the trauma bond, kind of rewiring their mind to not be addicted to the narcissist or go back, to help them detox from the narcissist and help them get clarity as they continue to grow and change. So you can sign up for one-on-ones either at Raw Motivations or click the link in the bio. But we meet with people every single day to try to be able to help them build their awareness, growth, healing, and change. That's kind of like my 4 taglines that I've been going off of for a while. How do they curse at you, tell you to F off one day, and then the next day are planning your wedding like everything is great and nothing happened? So they compartmentalize it, and then the idea is, there might have been a big like blow up or breakup or anything like that, but then the idea they come back the next day, implying and expecting that nothing happened. That we just move on. They're trying to put the past in the past so we don't acknowledge it, and so we don't think about it, and so we don't acknowledge like anything that they've done wrong. So typically what causes narcissism is from early childhood, either trauma or abuse, overbearing parents, over-enabling parents. Would you recommend therapy for a teenager if they're starting to exhibit narcissistic behavior? Yes, I would. Experience neglect and abuse, so maybe codependent and not narcissistic. A lot of that would be going back to maybe your attachment styles or like how you developed your emotional maturity. I want to thank you for everything you've provided, Ben. I've been able to slowly break the trauma bond and go no contact. He rarely contacts me about his child. My son and I have been better together. That's awesome. That's super encouraging. My attachment style would be closer to like I think it'd be the anxious avoidant. I'd have to double check. Anyways, I'm going to start signing off. I think I got on around like 8 or so it's been a while. But yeah, thank you all so much. If you guys don't already, follow on some of the other platforms. So we got YouTube, Instagram, Facebook. Trying to work on my Facebook. I just had to like restarted a while back because there was something locked up with Facebook and I couldn't get it fixed. So definitely help support in any of those ways. If you guys want to talk one-on-one, we'd love to be able to interact with you. The link's in the bio, or you can go to rawmotivations.com to be able to grab a one-on-one. We can sit down, try to talk through some stuff, try to help you get that awareness, growth, healing, and change. Check out as well, there's a free trial for my Raw Motivations. Yeah, Raw Motivations everywhere. So YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok is all Raw Motivations. Check out the Narc app. That's that mobile app to be able to have anytime, to be able to log your story, be able to log your truth, be able to track your no contact, to be able to actually do even the exercise that like I do with people on one-on-ones, like teaching you the tool of how to be able to rewire your mind. That's built into the app. There's actually a whole exercise in there that you can actually text back and forth with the app and be able to process that. So yeah, if you're interested, check out my check out my website, rawmotivations.com. Yes, I do have a Facebook page. It's under Raw Motivations as well. Raw Motivations everywhere. Yeah, the name of the app is the Narc app. So N-A-R-C, just type in N-A-R-C into Apple or into Google Play. You can download it there. So I've also got the link in my bio as well. If you guys want to see the co-parenting webinar that's coming up on June 2nd, Stronger Than Before is putting that on. She does amazing webinars. That's coming up. Links in my bio as well for that. Otherwise, I might see you randomly on a live, but otherwise, lives will be back Monday night. It'll be on the Narc app. If you're on like the second tier, there's a way to be able to log in, be able to interact. Otherwise, it's just kind of like a replay for everybody. And then there's also the monthly one-on-ones you'll be able to log into as well. That's coming up at the end of the month. So that's in the app on the second tier. There's a whole premium supporter area for there for you to be able to log in into the weekly lives, but also the monthly Zoom calls. Then we'll be live on Wednesday with Lee. I think this time it's on my platform. It might be on his. No, it might be on his. We alternate every other week. And then on Thursday, I'll be back on all the platforms, since I'm really trying to be on several of them here: Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, and TikTok. Awesome. Thank you all so much. Appreciate it. It's been really awesome. Thank you all for sticking around for a good while. Lots of really good questions too. Appreciate it. All right. You all have a